Yeah, we're late, and I don't know how to start this, so.
Yeah, I just noticed that all of a sudden I started having static all over my little receiver here. Whatever. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
There you are. All right, we're going to talk about deploying AutoCAD. Now, when we're saying deploying AutoCAD, this applies to a lot of Autodesk products. But we are going to be actually showing you the AutoCAD stuff. But for Revit, and they have a
bunch
apps,
of things in their suite.
Yeah, they've. This has been a perennial question. We've had a few webcasts on it. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Woo! All right, so.
That's it. We'll see you later.
That was it. That was easy. We're just going to go to deploy.
Yeah, actually, what we're going to do, we're gonna actually kick off the deployment, because the deployment can take a while. Obviously, we're talking about a very large, as far as the number of components and space, size. This is a big deployment.
It may take the extent of the webcast.
Yeah, so we're gonna hit deploy. I'll let Katie decide. She built this, but then we're gonna show you, what we're gonna kind of show you what's under the hood while this is being deployed. So we're deploying to Morty.
Yep, this is my fastest VM I could find. So this is my cute little tiny friendly VM. So we've got this package. We're going to start with the network deployment wizard, and I'll confess to a little bit of movie magic that I made the deployment ahead of time, since it takes a year and a day for that thing to finish. So it's actually going to be really fast, because I'm not switching any of the parameters or doing anything big and fancy. Yep. It's all boring to sit and watch loading progress bars.
Now, obviously, you are going to need to download the installation media from Autodesk using your Autodesk account. However you have that, whether it's a subscription, whatever, you will need to go out there and provide the media, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy question for me to answer, because I just had to go to the file server and pull the executable. You had to do all the hard work on that one.
You did all the hard work on for this webcast. So I downloaded the software, and then I watched Ozark. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'll let you drive from here. So you open up. You just ran setup.
Yep, this is just setup.exe. Run it, and it's going to ask you, do you want to install or create a network deployment? You want to create a network deployment, unless you want to wander around all your machines and click through all of this stuff.
In which case, why are you watching this webcast?
Hopefully, this is not going to make your life as hard as it would if you had to walk around and talk to everybody.
So normally you'd create a new deployment configuration, but in this case you're going to modify an existing one. Is that what you're going to do?
Yep. You'll need to put your deployment configuration name in there, which I keep it the same. You want to put it out on a UNC path and use a UNC path, because those are hopefully always going to be available during the deployment. If you use a mapped drive that refers to a network location, there's no promise that mapped drive is going to exist at the time of your deployment, because it's so heavily reliant upon a logged on user.
Yeah.
So
use UNC.
Yeah. Avoid the temptation.
So we have a server called Council of Ricks.
Yep, he's hosting my AutoCAD deployment.
We've got our share with Autodesk, so go ahead.
Yeah, so an important thing to note is to run it in silent mode. Otherwise, the deployment won't be silent. So do that.
One of the whole points of deployments is to not have end users answering questions.
Yeah, the most common thing that we see with an Autodesk deployment is that it timed out due to nothing happening, which is most likely the installer sitting and waiting on your target machine for some sort of human acknowledgement to continue on through the process.
And if it's been run hidden, that window is technically up, but no user can actually see it, so it just hangs.
It's just shouting into the void.
So we'll avoid that. Run this in silent mode. It depends on if you want to create log files. You can do that.
Yep, so you've got that there. You can put a log file on each user's workstation if you want to find it. It can get, if you've got a bunch of computers that you're deploying to, it can get really gnarly to sift through that one file out on your UNC path, because it's just a text file full of so much information. If you've got 7 machines writing to it, it gets long.
Okay, good to know.
So I like the log file in each temp folder. And that'll be the temp folder of your deploy user. Whoever's executing the deployment, it's going to be their temp folder, not like Joe the architect or your admin account.
Okay.
So
obviously
accept the license agreement, or it won't let you click next. So
I reject.
This is where you will either enter your Autodesk ID or your serial number.
Point it at a network activation server if you've got one of those guys. I'm going to cheat. This is actually not the deployment that we're using, because I didn't really want to show you my serial number. You can't have that, sorry. But, you know, put in your serial number, go find your license server, whatever you need to do. If you are using Autodesk IDs, then yours is going to match ours at this point. And then pick your things.
Yeah, pick your components. So obviously you're going to, chances are you're going to want to choose AutoCAD.
Oh, yeah.
And then you want the Auto desktop app or whatever. If you have additional components, this is where you can add them here.
Add-ons, library items, updates.
But you have to have, you already have to have those ready to go. So if you were to click, manage additional software with this deployment, it's basically going to say, okay, where is it and what are the command line parameters?
And this doesn't do any magic. I mean, obviously, none of this does magic because this is a gnarly application to install. It's huge. So you're probably going to need parameters. Most of them, if you look through and dig through Autodesk's documentation, are just /Q, /quiet, or /passive. So when in doubt, try one of those.
But there's so many different, there's so many different components that different software vendors make for Autodesk products. Maybe you have some of your favorites. This is where you could add them as part of this.
Oh, yeah. So this screen's going to look real familiar. We're going to come back to this in a second.
Okay.
But, go through all of these, pick what you need. If you need to change the installation path, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to click Create. So while that runs, you want to show us a package?
You want to, well, first of all, let's go back and just see if Morty has failed or anything. No, Morty is still running.
Yeah.
All right, so which package did you want to open up? We're deploying AutoCAD 2019.
Yep, so we've got, this is the package that we're deploying.
And notice it's only got one step. Why? Because obviously this takes a little while. We're creating this deployment from the deployment wizard. Can we go out there and show them what this is pointing to?
Yeah. So this command in the install string in the command box is one that I stole from Autodesk because they know how to install their stuff, and then modified a little bit.
So when you create your Autodesk installation, you're going to go out to that. You're going to go out to the console over X or whatever, obviously, whatever your server
file
is.
server, wherever you put it, UNC path. And then you're going to see this shortcut, which was intended so you could say, hello, end users. If you want AutoCAD, here's where the shortcut is. Click it. It'll show you what it's doing. And then magically afterwards, you'll have AutoCAD.
So go ahead. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the properties of this shortcut. And we're going to copy and paste.
Yep, we're going to copy paste
the contents of the target field. Once again, from that shortcut, and that's what you see here. Now, it is important to realize. Notice it's got trial in there. It just seems to always do that, and it doesn't really matter if you put trial in there or take it out. It seems to be the same behavior.
There's one old forum post from the social media helper, or I forget what her title was from Autodesk, saying you can leave it in, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so you're seeing the before and after. The bottom line is copied from that.
Yep, I just pasted it down at the bottom so we could have some sort of a comparison. I'm not going to, don't save it this way. But notice that we added a /W parameter, and we changed that QB to just a Q. So QB is just a classic MSI parameter for Quiet Basic, which will show a basic UI, which is what your users would see if they were double-clicking that shortcut, is just the progress to see.
And it used to be, Autodesk has gone back and forth. Sometimes the QB was required.
True.
Sometimes it doesn't matter. What you don't want to do is QN.
Not in this version.
Not in this version. QN means that's the standard MSI for quiet, absolutely no UI. And this is one of the reasons why we're also doing this in an install step. But in the command step. So notice we took out the B, we added the uppercase /W.
That W is important because it tells setup.exe to wait for each component to install and finish installing before it returns a code saying whether it was successful or whether it failed. If you leave out that W, you'll get an error code 259.
Yes.
Immediately, 30 seconds after, it'd be it failed.
Just put that /W in there. And then we did modify, you want to circle that? We did add the success codes. So you want to add success codes 1641 and 3010.
It's important to look for them because these get added for you automatically in an install step, but not on a command step because
correct.
You could be running anything.
And these codes do mean that the product was installed successfully. 1641 generally means that the installation was a success and a reboot has been initiated. And then 3010 is the opposite. It's a success, but a reboot is needed. Those are successful installations. So we're going to mark those as that. Go ahead and clear that. And then go ahead and lose that bottom line.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get rid of my changes and go back into the package.
All right.
I cancel that too so I don't accidentally miss it.
No worries.
All right, so there we are.
Well, close. Now we want to come into conditions. Options. And in options, notice that generally you're going to have a run as, the run as field as deploy user. That's usually that's the default. It means it's hidden. You're going to run this as a deploy user. With Autodesk products, we have seen a much higher success rate in changing this to deploy user interactive, not just deploy user, but deploy user interactive.
And it's not interactive in the sense that your users are going to have to do anything. It's just not going to deploy's not going to try as hard to suppress.
Yes, we just seen a higher success rate as well as our customers. By doing this, basically if there is a desktop, it's still able to use that desktop. Mm-hmm. It's just an important thing. It's one of those characteristics that's unique, not necessarily unique, but applies to Autodesk products for the most part. You're better off using deploy user interactive as in your options. So, and then notice we've got this is the 64-bit version. So we're just saying in the OS architecture, don't install the 32-bit, just install the 64-bit. May as well nail that one down right there.
Probably don't want to run AutoCAD on a 32-bit version of Windows. Your life will be a little hard.
And then what we'd recommend, because there's we'll show you all the components that are getting installed, but we'd recommend that you actually do a reboot here. Now we're gonna.
Yeah, you have a method for kind reboots.
Yes.
So that your end users don't come in with their pitchforks.
So we're gonna add a new step, and we'll just go down to the reboot step, and we're gonna do 2 of these. There's a reason. So we're gonna call this. Why don't you call this one reboot, no user or no log on or something like that. So what we're going to say, in order to run this reboot, the logged on state is only run this step. This is step 2 if no user is logged on. And why? Because we're going to come over here and just say 0 seconds. Just reboot it when it's done. Yeah. Yep. No message is even needed. But it will only run if no user's logged on. Then we're going to go ahead and just duplicate this one. Call this one reboot. How about user logged on? And we'll just do the opposite. Logged on state, only run if a user is logged on. And that includes locked and disconnected states. And then we'll change that 0 to something like 5 minutes, 300 seconds. And then you can just put in a nice reboot message. So this way you will get the reboot that's needed. If they try to run AutoCAD, it's probably going to...
Yeah, it can throw up errors if it actually has stuff that it needs to do when it reboots.
And one of the reasons is it's not just AutoCAD. There are so many components that are being installed as part of this installation. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Oh, you know what? Since this is for the 64-bit, another little trick you could do is just make a global condition and just say only 64-bit.
Whole package is 64-bit.
That means, yeah, if you were to push this out to a 32-bit, it wouldn't have run that first one, but then it would have rebooted.
Yeah, because we didn't
change those
just
conditions.
Be a surprise reboot package for 32-bit machines.
Yeah, so go to the top properties if you're going to have a condition that applies everywhere. Anyway, let's check out. Morty was successful.
Yeah. Well, good job. 8 minutes, guy.
Didn't take too
And
long.
notice it was a 1641. We have seen where Autodesk does reboot, and sometimes it doesn't reboot with a 1641.
This one, when we were looking at it yesterday, we saw it. It said it rebooted, and then we found in the event viewer where it attempted to reboot, and Windows was like, no.
Yeah, it didn't do anything. Okay, let's go ahead and ask, grab a question, and then we'll show the text file. Go ahead.
Dear Shane and Katie, where can you download the offline installer for Autodesk 2019 products? Sincerely, Alexander S.
Hi, Alexander. You need to find the Autodesk representative for your company, your organization. If you're not the person that has that, basically at least with the subscription or with the with the licensing that we have, you will get there's one person from the company that gets access to the Autodesk portal, and then you kind of have to do a mother may I to get that software. Yep. And then you download it. What we're looking at here, this is the offline version. It's just we're choosing to build a deployment out of it. But it's like a 3.5 gig download.
Oh yeah, it's pretty hefty.
I can't give you just one location because you're going to have an Autodesk username and password to get that information. So you'll need to talk to whoever the representative is.
Yeah, if somebody else bought,
who's your point of contact for Autodesk? Yeah.
Yep.
Do we want to take another question before we? Okay.
Cool.
So, Katie, let's go show us the text file that when we created that deployment using that wizard. Let's go show us. Oh, by the way, now that you're here, you want to talk about the add updates?
Yep. We're gonna go back to our install that the network deployment that we kicked off a little bit ago. So down at the bottom, you'll see this Add Updates button. This is where you download updates. Whether you bake them into your to your network deployment or you do them as a standalone package, which I personally would recommend because I think it's a little easier. This is what you're going to do. And it's kind of one of those do something, stand on your head, spin around backwards 3 times kind of tricks. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So clicking the Add Updates, you can choose that. Also, going back to Alexander's question, whoever the POC is for Autodesk at your company can also go out to the portal and just say, show me all the AutoCAD or Revit or DWG or whatever Autodesk product you want. Show me all the updates to that, and you can just download those and throw them on your file server.
So if you have the keys to the kingdom, do it the easy way. If, like me, you don't have the keys to the kingdom, you can do it this way and get your updates anyway. So there's actually only one update left because I downloaded a couple earlier to make an example. Cool. But what you're going to do is you're going to add this, wait for it to finish downloading, which this is a small update, so it went really fast. It might take a little longer. Okay. And then once you've done that, you're going to remove it. That just removes it from the deployment. It doesn't remove the files from the UNC path where you saved the deployment. They're still there.
Good to know.
I know. It makes so much sense. But that was literally the order of operations in the article from Autodesk that I was reading when I was going through all of this. So
now we've gone through the updates. Say close.
We're going to close. I don't know why it warns you, but thank you for the modal window.
Now let's go out to that. Let's go out to this file share.
Yeah.
So we had shown you the shortcut where we copied that path, but notice there's the same name of the deployment, AutoCAD 2019. There's a log file. Let's edit that.
So many things.
Let's do this in.
Let's regular Notepad.
Yeah, let's do it in Notepad. It's a little easier to read, I think. Don't you think? There we go.
There's no easy way to read this.
Where is this is what I want. I'm sorry. Where is the I want to see the components that are getting installed. I apologize.
Oh, prerequisites and all
yes.
that. Yeah. So and this is I think we had another question about uninstalling.
Okay.
So I'm going to cheat and do both. They create SCCM scripts. If you've got an SCCM server and you're pushing this out to your millions of machines, they set these up for you. So there's uninstall.
There's the uninstall. But if we want to see all the components that are getting installed, you'd open up that top one. This is the SCCM. And if you scroll down, the setup that is running, remember we're running that setup with a /W and giving it a path to this. This is effectively just traversing this and installing all of these different components.
Yep. Starts off with the prerequisites, moves on down to the actual Autodesk components that you've chosen.
One of the reasons why I think it's important to use the setup exe from Autodesk is it's effectively a little wrapper. It's like a bootstrapper that can handle the different return codes from this and say, oh, you've already got the prerequisite.net. I'm not going to bother with that. Oh, you've already got the prerequisite DirectX, etc. We have had customers. I was witness to this. They actually went through this list and created different steps for each one. I mean, this AutoCAD package was huge. They just wanted more control over each step. They didn't want to just rely on this. I'd recommend relying on this. The other one is very error prone. But this is just so you know, taking a look under the hood, this is what's being installed.
Yep, there's everything. And then on the other hand, for there's a question out there somewhere that I read this morning. Uninstalling will show you all of the components and their GUIDs. So.
Yeah, you want to may as well throw that question out since you got a sneak peek. This
I
is
demand
another
the
reason.
question.
Another reason why we do. It is sometimes helpful to get your questions out in advance.
Yeah, so you've got all these GUIDs, and then in inventory, when you scan a machine, you'll see each component listed as installed. You can build an uninstall package using that because it's going to vary from version to version what their GUIDs are to uninstall all of these components. So now that we've got a machine,
So hopefully you can also show how to silently uninstall AutoCAD for all modules. So if you wanted all the modules, we didn't create an uninstall package, right?
No.
Is there a way to just say, point to that uninstall?
Not that I've found, unless you're using SCCM. Go for it. But I was going to use inventory.
So the answer to that question is no.
No, you can do. It looks like it's going to be a few more steps. You're going to have to go.
It's going to be a couple more steps.
You're going to go into inventory and grab those uninstall strings and throw them into like one.
Yep, but you're going to want to do it. You don't want us to do it with a package in the package library because you might need those components, and we can't just do like a scorched earth approach to do everything from Autodesk.
Kind of picky about what goes in there.
This isn't Java alternate.
I mean, yeah, this isn't something that we can just pluck out from your network.
So we're going to go to Morty. Now, Morty, we have this set up to automatically do an inventory scan after deployment. So let's go to Applications. Yeah, it's pretty big there. That's a pretty big window.
Oh, I got
Notice
a
all the
smaller
auto. What are you doing?
I got a smaller one. It's prettier.
Notice all the Autodesk components that are installed now.
Yep, so you got all these guys.
And going back to the question of uninstalling, notice there is an uninstall string here.
Yep.
So it might be a little, so you're saying it seems to be a bit more of a manual process where you can right click on that uninstall, paste it, make sure you have the silent parameters. You're going to have to do that for each one most likely.
Yeah, you can take care of this, and I mean, you don't want to remove the Visual C++ or the C runtimes because those are probably or possibly servicing other applications. So this just lets you get rid of the Autodesk components, and then if you decide you want to get rid of those, you can get rid of them too.
Notice if there is an MSI exec, we do place the quiet parameters in there. We do know how, we already know how to do that, so that is modified. But for here, so if I wanted to just uninstall this component, I can click uninstall in inventory, and it's going to open up a run command with that, and I could deploy and run them. You could also copy that and put that into a command step in a deploy package, and you have a deploy package that uninstalls a bunch of these. But this is where it can get a little hairy. When it's not an MSI exec and you click uninstall, you need to find out what the silent parameter for that is. And it's probably going to be /q or it's going to be /uninstall. That's what you need to find out. And then make a change there. So that's for a non-MSI.
Yep, and that may very well work out of the box, but you'll probably want to do some
testing
on your own.
Yeah, basically the uninstall string, we're grabbing that value, if it exists, from the registry, and that's the same value that's executed when you go to, the add remove programs, your softwares and your programs and features, and say uninstall. It runs that, and that's usually meant for an interactive installation. So it's going to say, ask you questions. Are you sure you want to uninstall? You want to make sure it's quiet. Anyway.
Yep.
Where do you want to go now? Do you want to talk about the updates?
Yep.
All right. So now
we're going to updates.
What we're covering here works for when you are installing, AutoCAD 2019 on a new machine.
This will work elsewhere as well if you need it to. So remember we downloaded the updates?
Yes, I do.
Elsewhere? So when that happens, you will find them in this, in your IMG folder, updates, and then each one will have its own GUID. So that's where the Network Deployment Wizard dumps them. If you grabbed them manually like you did, they'll be out somewhere else, but this will be where you find them. Some of them are MSIs, which are going to probably install pretty easy. They might need Autodesk might have their own parameters like /q, so you check on it before you go and throw these into a package.
But let's say you want to create a separate package just for this. I've got a bunch of users that have AutoCAD 2019. Now I've built this new one that gets them up to date, but I don't want to do a whole new installation, 3.5 gigs to a computer that already has it. How do I just get that one update out there? This is where we've downloaded it from our portal, from the Autodesk portal,
Yep, so this is the update that was out on the file server that I used earlier is the same thing. So this is one of the bigger updates. What I did was I took this file and I drug it into an empty run window, and then on the end of it, I'm going to do a space /?.
Oh, the universal. Now,
Universal, do you have any information?
Yeah, this is a way. It doesn't always work with applications.
Nope.
It depends on the application vendor, but this is a Windows way of saying, show me a usage window. I want to see what parameters are available here. And this is a 550 meg update. So it's
on a VM over there.
It takes a second and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to actually run this?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a great example of a usage window. We can see the setup parameters. There's install, there's uninstall, there's passive, quiet. So what we're going to do is probably do an install and a /quiet, right?
And a no restart. And a log to dump it out to the output log for good measure.
Well, let's show us the package that you built there. So we got AutoCAD 2019 update. This is a update 2019.1.2, right?
Yep. So I grabbed that. I stuffed in the parameters, quiet restart or no restart log, and then if you say output log, that'll deploy will catch that and put it into the output log. It may anyway.
Is installs automatically assumed unless So remember you saw that /install, but if you don't see an install or an uninstall, it's assumed that you're going to install. And then notice she's got a couple of extra success codes there. We see the usual 1641 and 3010, but what's this 2359302?
That's usually used by Windows updates in my experience, which means this update does not apply. And so this update does not need to be installed because it's already installed.
I just saying that 2359302, I actually thought of Tommy Two Tone. Who else did? Anybody else? 8675309?
Yes.
2, 3, 5.
I'm so old. Anyway.
We could make that a song.
Yep, so I actually reverted Morty back to a snapshot, so we're going to redeploy to Morty.
Hey, can we make that an error code in one of our products? 8675309.
That would
Absolutely.
be funny.
Or we could do a spoof on 2393802 or whatever that was.
The hell with spoofs. Let's actually create an error code somewhere in our product with Tommy Two Tone's Jenny.
Talk to Adam.
Make it so. All right. Anyway, so now we're deploying to Morty, and let's just check out what we've got from Morty right now. Showed AutoCAD. So many AutoCADs.
It's actually going to be
AutoCAD, will you?
It's actually going to be in a different place for the updates because it doesn't.
It does not modify.
It does not modify
Good
the
to know.
version number installed. It's going to show up as a hotfix.
Oh, very cool.
Notice there's nothing from Autodesk. This is all Windows and Visual C++. Also.
But it will show up
Windows.
in here.
Yep.
Okay, this is going to be important when you're creating your collections. So if you want to create a collection to show machines that have the latest version.
Yep, they're going to look for the hotfix.
Go to the don't. So you're saying that this is not going to modify. Will you type in Autodesk here? Or I mean AutoCAD, pardon me. I guess. So AutoCAD.
Nope, it's going to stay 23.0.46.0.
Wonderful. All right, so you might want to look in your collections, look for Autodesk AutoCAD 2019 contains. You don't have to do the whole dash English unless you do equals. Contains that, but then look in the hotfix table to say, do you have whatever?
This hotfix, it's got a funky name, so it doesn't look like the Windows hotfixes, which makes it easy to identify. So, while this is going, do we have another question?
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Katie, the trickiest part for me deploying any Autodesk product, Revit, Max, CAD, is stopping it from rebooting the machine without prompting. Any tips on how to really suppress a restart? It usually happens as soon as deployment starts, so points to a dependency, or maybe it doesn't like a pending reboot. Thanks, Paul H.
Yeah, unlike the Adobe or the Microsoft Microsoft Office install toolkit, we were unable to find something to say do not do.
Don't you dare restart.
Don't do a restart. Like we said, on a lot of our machines, we see that it, according to the event log, it attempted to restart, but it just actually didn't, which is why we put those reboots in there. But sorry, I think I have to say dig into some Autodesk documentation, or even call Autodesk and to say, how do I suppress a reboot? we haven't been able to find a way that's built into their product to do that.
And with the things that we haven't been able to figure out, like this one, the tickets that I've worked on with other admins have been pretty successful contacting Autodesk and asking. They do at least seem to know.
You certainly give them enough money. You give them a lot of money, so they should be able to answer that, I suppose.
So, yep. I'm going to clear the filters so that we can see all these, because there's not many.
All right, so then we can see the Autodesk. So this is going to make it a little difficult for your collections using the, is it below this version? You're going to have to end up doing a couple of filters that just say, do you have 2019.1.2? Does it contain that? And then when the next version comes out, you'll have to modify those collections. Does that make sense?
But look in the hotfixes, find something in there, use that to detect whether, or to build your collections to decide whether or not AutoCAD needs an update.
Here's a hypothetical for you, Katie. If I've got AutoCAD 2014 and I've decided now I'm going to install 2019 and I don't uninstall 14, does it upgrade 14 or does it do a side-by-side?
Oh, it does a side-by-side.
So they could still run both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had, when I worked for my last job, we had cities as our customers. And some of their city engineers needed AutoCAD, and they'd need some really old version to pull up old plans, and then they'd have the new version that they actually used. And so whenever you get a new computer, you'd put them on side by side, and they'd freak out. They'd be like, "Where's AutoCAD 6.2?"
So just so you know, if you want to uninstall older versions, go through an uninstall. And like I said, if you have inventory, we made it somewhat easy, but if you just install it over another major version, it's just going to install a separate application. So they'll have two AutoCADs. Yeah, let's go to another question.
Sure.
Dear Shane and Katie, why not use an install step instead of a command step to install? Thanks, Scott, Scotty, too hottie, S.
A couple of reasons, but that's a great question. Thanks for asking, Scott. So let's, if you don't mind, I'm going to
go for it.
We're going to go back over here to AutoCAD 2019. So Scott's saying, hey, you're using a command step. Why not use an install? When you use an install, if we were to use an install and point to this setup exe, so there's our install step. If we point to this setup exe, it's going to copy that down to the target system. We could say, include the entire directory. But the problem is, it's still when it runs through that, it's still going to be looking out.
In our case, with the default options, it's going to look out to that UNC path, and the console machine is going to say, "Give me those files," and then push them out to your target machines, which is a little bit of overhead that you don't need.
Plus, in here, you would have to. Let me see. I guess I could hurry and show. Sorry about this, everybody. Let me just go here. May I? Mm-hmm. So let's see, where's that? It's in
it's IMG. Yep.
And then it's going to be setup.exe. Okay. So you'd have to do the include entire directory. If you didn't do that, it would absolutely fail. Let's say that you did want to pull everything down and those text files are modified to relative paths. You would still need to take these. Let's see. You need to add these parameters that you see here, right there, the /WQI, everything. You'd have to add all that right there. But the problem is you're still trying to copy everything down, and most likely it's still going to be making network references. Yep. So it really is easier to do the command step because it's going to be installing everything from your UNC path instead of adding a bunch of unnecessary network traffic. It's going to run everything from that path, and you can make changes to those files as needed. And the same package will always work, but by doing it this way, you're effectively copying all the files down there, even if they're not needed. Remember, if .NET is already installed on that system, this setup is going to skip it, but not if you copy everything down. And this is a huge issue. The only gotcha is really you've got to add those success codes. That's why we do it. Sometimes it's just better to do it that way as a command step. I hope that answered it. It's just easier and it's more efficient.
Dear Shane and Katie, coincidentally, I was having an issue silently installing Autodesk DWG TrueView 2019 when I saw the notification about today's webcast. Will the same methods work for that as well? If not, Any tips? Thanks, Matt Z.
A lot of Autodesk products use the same concepts. Now, we do have the TrueView viewer we downloaded. Autodesk DWG, this is just the viewer here, but if you notice, we'll open this up. Notice we've got some PowerShell scripts that we run there, but let's look at the 64-bit TrueView. Notice those parameters. We still have the /W, still have the /Q. You probably don't have that, but we are pointing to a setup INI. Now, in this case, we are using an install step and a relative path of ./setup INI. So that has to exist. Notice we include the entire directory, so it's 2 gigabytes, and we specify the language. Those are probably going to work on the non-viewer, but I guess the question I have for you is, did your parameters look something like that? Did you have the /W? Did you have the /Q? Was it QN? You don't want that.
And also worth mentioning, there's a reason that we have these scripts to check for pending reboots, because in our testing when we built the package, it behaved very badly if there was a reboot pending. So you could also try rebooting the machine. It sounds silly. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Actually, that's if you really want to have you really control your Autodesk deployments, your AutoCAD deployments in this case, do a step, have a step to either check. You got a cheat sheet right here.
I mean, you could copy paste
or
that. Or
just do a reboot. Say, hey, we're going to push this out at night, and the first thing it's going to do is reboot the system.
Start
and
fresh.
When it comes back up, it will continue on with the deployment at that point. That way you know that this computer's been rebooted. It's not going to give you any problems as it installs those many components for AutoCAD.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
And our final question of the day from Jim L. During one of my installs, it gives me a pop-up that it fails to connect to a resource, normal for this install. You only need to click OK and it goes right to finish. To get around this, I cancel the PDQ job and reboot the target computer and all is good. I was wondering if you may have a way to get around this. Thanks in advance, Jim L.
Did you, I have to ask, did you make it completely silent when you built your deployment?
Or when you ran through the network deployment wizard, did you use a UNC path whenever asked to browse to the files? Because if you used a mapped network drive, it could be trying to reference those files over an X drive or something that's not actually mapped.
Interesting. We haven't seen that. That's actually kind of common on the old Microsoft Office, because there was actually a checkbox in Office that said, don't show the completion. I would just want to make sure that you are saying that this is silent. Make sure you're running deploy user interactive, and hopefully all of that will go away. They might deploy user interactive. They still may see, if someone's logged on, they still may see some windows moving around, but that should solve it. Make sure you do. I'm telling you, without doing this, we have seen throughout the years, and this is going back years and years, it is very important to run your AutoCADs, for the most part, as deploy user interactive.
Yeah, I think it applies to a lot of different software.
I wouldn't say a lot, but it does.
Some picky
there
things.
are some fairly picky ones. We had a customer that said, we've got this point of sale application and it just always fails, even though the vendor has told us here's the quiet parameters. Turns out that the vendors built that expecting a desktop. I said, use deploy user interactive, and they said, wow, now it works. So this should only be used as necessary, but make sure you're using it. Try that. Make sure you built your deployment quiet and use deploy user interactive. Cool. All right. Good luck on the AutoCAD deployments. And like I said, we've seen this work with Revit, with other Autodesk products. Sometimes they vary a little bit.
Give it a try. Check out the documentation.
And we check out our other webcasts as well as blogs on some of the other products. But for the most part, there's a common theme. All right, everybody. If you're in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving. If you're not, happy Thursday. Next week, we won't be here. But you all have a great time.
See you later.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Alexander S. and Paul H., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Also, big congratulations to Pumpkin Pie, winner of the 2018 Pie Extravaganza. And as always, have a happy Thanksgiving.